village of Umudara, a girl's beauty was measured by only one thing: her hair. The longer it was, the more respect she received. But for twin sisters, Chika and Kachi, whose hair refused to grow past their necks, beauty was something the village believed they would never have. Girls spent hours each day combing their hair, oiling it, braiding it, and decorating it with beads. Mothers taught their daughters that a woman's pride rested on the length and shine of her hair. Festivals often turned into quiet competitions where women measured their beauty by how far their hair flowed down their backs. Chika and Kachi were twins, identical in face and voice, but what people always noticed first was their hair. It was short, rough, and stubborn. No matter how much they tried to grow it, it never passed their necks. Their parents had died when they were very young, leaving them alone in the small house they once shared. The villagers allowed them to stay there out of pity, but that pity never stopped the whispers. Everywhere the twins went, laughter followed them. "Look at them," women would say during market days. "Girls without beauty." "Hair like boys," others would mock. Some children were even worse. They would run behind the twins, singing cruel songs. Short hair, no beauty anywhere." At first, the twins cried. They would return home with tears in their eyes, shutting their door against the world. Some nights they slept without eating because the pain in their hearts was heavier than hunger. After many years, Chika and Kachi stopped crying. They stopped answering people. They stopped going to gatherings unless it was necessary. They fetched water quietly, worked quietly, and returned home quietly. The insults still came, but they had grown used to them like people grow used to the sound of crickets at night. They simply lived. Still, inside their hearts, something slowly grew. Something deep and silent. One morning, before the rooster in the village crowed, the twins woke up. The sky was still dark. A cool wind moved through the trees as if the world itself was still sleeping. Chika lit a small lamp while Kachi packed the little food they had left. Neither of them spoke. They did not need to. They both knew what they had decided the night before. They were leaving Umudara. Forever. They stepped outside quietly and closed the door of their house for the last time. The ground was cold beneath their feet as they walked toward the forest that bordered the village. A few early risers saw them, but no one asked questions. After all, they were just the two strange girls with short hair. No one cared enough to stop them. The forest swallowed them slowly, and by the time the sun rose above Umudara, the twins were gone. Days passed. At first, nobody noticed. The village continued its daily rhythm, farming, trading, gossiping. But eventually, someone realized the twins had not been seen for several days. "They must have run away," someone said with a shrug. "Maybe they finally got tired of their shame," another woman added. And that was the end of the conversation. Life moved on. Until one afternoon, something strange happened. Two figures appeared at the edge of the village. At first, people did not recognize them. The sun shone brightly behind them, and their silhouettes moved slowly toward the houses. The figures came closer, and then the whispers began. "Is that? No, it cannot be." But it was. Chika and Kachi. Yet they looked completely different. Their hair flowed behind them like dark silk, reaching far past their waists. It was thick, shiny, and smoother than any hair anyone in Umudara had ever seen. When the wind blew, it moved like water. Their beauty was breathtaking. Even the women who once mocked them stared in silence. Their hair was longer than everyone's, more beautiful than everyone's. The same villagers who once laughed at them now watched them with wide, curious eyes. But the twins said nothing. They simply walked through the village and returned to their old house. From that day, they lived quietly again. They fetched water. They visited the market. They spoke only when necessary. But their beauty had changed everything. Everywhere they went, people stared. Whispers followed them again. But this time, they were different whispers. How did their hair grow like that? What did they do? Where did they go? The questions spread across Umudara like wildfire. Among the people watching them closely was a girl named Amanda. Amanda had always been known as the most beautiful girl in the village. Her hair was long and admired by everyone. She was proud of it and often reminded others of her beauty. She had also been one of the loudest voices mocking the twins in the past. But now, things had changed. The twins' hair was longer than hers, more beautiful than hers. The jealousy in Amanda's heart began to grow. For days, she watched them carefully. Finally, her curiosity and greed became too strong to ignore. One afternoon, she approached them as they sat outside their house. "Chika, Kachi," she said, forcing a smile. "Your hair, it is very beautiful." The twins looked at her quietly. Amanda hesitated before continuing. "Tell me your secret." Neither of them spoke. Amanda tried again. "Please, just tell me what you did. I want my hair to grow like yours." The silence stretched between them. Then Kachi spoke softly. "We cannot tell you." Amanda's face tightened with frustration. "Why not?" Chika finally looked at her. "If we tell you," she said calmly, "you must promise to keep it a secret." Amanda nodded immediately. "I promise." Her voice was quick and eager. The twins studied her face for a moment before Kachi spoke again. "Come to our house tonight." Amanda's eyes lit up. "We will take you where our hair became like this." That night, the village slept under a quiet sky. Most people were unaware that 3 girls had slipped out of the edge of Umudara and into the forest. The moon guided their path as they walked deeper and deeper into the trees. The forest was silent except for the rustling of leaves and the distant cries of night birds. Amanda felt a slight fear growing in her chest, but her desire for beauty pushed her forward. They walked until the village lights were no longer visible. That was the last time anyone ever saw Amanda. Only Chika and Kachi returned the next morning. Days passed. Amanda was nowhere to be found. Her family searched everywhere. The villagers organized groups to comb the forest, but there was no sign of her. As the days turned into weeks, something strange began happening again. The twins' beauty seemed to grow even more. Their hair became thicker, shinier, longer, and slowly, other girls began approaching them, quietly, secretly. One by one, some girls disappeared. At first, people believed they had run away, but when several of them vanished, fear began spreading across Umudara. Something was wrong. People started whispering dark suspicions, yet no one could prove anything. The twins continued their quiet lives, saying little and revealing nothing. Finally, the villagers gathered courage to confront them. A group of elders approached their house one evening. "Girls," the chief said carefully, "many daughters of this village have gone missing." The twins looked at him silently. "We need to know what is happening." Still, they said nothing. The villagers exchanged uneasy glances. They knew something was wrong, but without proof, they could do nothing. So they decided to watch the twins, carefully, quietly. One night, a young man named Obina was walking home when he saw something unusual. He saw the twins walking toward the forest with another girl. Suspicion filled his mind immediately. Without being seen, Obina followed them. He kept his distance as they moved deeper into the trees. The forest grew darker and heavier with each step. Eventually, they reached a clearing. Obina hid behind a thick tree and watched. And what he saw froze his blood. His heart pounded violently against his chest. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. Fear gripped his entire body. Without thinking, he turned and ran.
Branches scratched his skin as he rushed through the forest, desperate to escape whatever nightmare he had just witnessed. By the time he reached the village, he was trembling uncontrollably. Villagers gathered around him immediately. "Obina! What happened? What did you see?" But Obina could not speak. His eyes were wide with terror. His lips moved, yet no words came out. The shock had stolen his voice. The twins returned to the village the next morning as if nothing had happened. But by then the fear in Umudara had grown too strong. The villagers confronted them again. "What is happening in that forest?" the chief demanded. This time the twins spoke. Their voices were calm. "All those who mocked us," Kachi said quietly, "are now tasting what they planted." Chika added softly, "The gods do not forget cruelty." The villagers were shocked. Anger rose among them. Some demanded the twins be chased out of the village immediately. Others feared something darker was happening. But before any decision could be made, that night, something terrifying happened in Umudara. The moon hung low in the sky, casting pale silver light over the quiet village. Most families had already gone to sleep after the long, restless day filled with arguments and suspicion. Then suddenly, the ground trembled. At first it was soft, almost unnoticeable. Some villagers stirred in their sleep, thinking it was only the wind. But the trembling did not stop. Instead, it grew stronger. The dogs were the first to react. All over the village, they began barking wildly. Their barks were not the normal warning barks they gave when strangers approached. These were desperate, fearful cries that echoed through the dark. One by one, lanterns began lighting up inside houses. Villagers stepped outside cautiously, holding small lamps, looking around with confusion and fear. "What is happening?" someone whispered. "Is it an earthquake?" another voice asked. But before anyone could answer, a long, chilling sound came from the direction of the forest. Leaves rustled violently. Branches snapped. The thick bushes at the edge of the forest began to move, as if something enormous was forcing its way through them.
People froze. Then they saw it. A massive python slowly slid out of the darkness of the forest. Gasps filled the air. It was larger than any snake anyone in Umudara had ever seen in their entire lives. Its body was thick like the trunk of a young tree, and it moved with slow, powerful grace across the ground. The moonlight reflected off its scales, making them shimmer like dark metal. Each movement of its body caused the earth to shift slightly beneath it. Women screamed in terror. Children cried as their mothers dragged them back inside their homes. Doors slammed shut across the village. But the python did not stop. It continued moving slowly through the center path of the village, as if it knew exactly where it was going. Its long body glided past the huts, past the market square, past the sacred tree where elders usually gathered. Finally, it stopped in front of the chief's compound. The chief, awakened by the noise and chaos, stepped outside, holding a trembling lantern. When the chief saw the creature before him, the lantern nearly slipped from his hands. The python lifted its enormous head slowly. Then the impossible happened. The python spoke. Its voice was deep and powerful, echoing through the silent night like distant thunder. "If harm comes to those girls," the python said slowly, its tongue flicking in the cold air, "this village will suffer greatly." The chief's body went weak. His knees trembled beneath him. Everyone watching from behind their doors and windows felt a cold wave of fear run through their bodies. The python continued, "You mocked them. You humiliated them. You turned your cruelty into entertainment." Its massive head moved slightly, scanning the dark village. "The gods have seen everything." The chief dropped to his knees immediately. "Great Spirit," he said with a shaking voice, bowing his head low to the ground. "We meant no harm." But the python's eyes remained cold. "The balance must not be broken," it warned. "If even a single hand is raised against those girls again, the forest will answer." The message was clear, terrifyingly clear. No one dared to speak. No one dared to move. After a long moment of silence, the python slowly lowered its head. Then its enormous body began to turn. With the same slow, powerful movements, it glided away from the chief's compound and returned toward the forest. For several minutes, nobody moved. The village remained frozen in shock. Then whispers began to spread. "What did we just see? A talking python. The gods are angry." By morning, the entire village understood something important. Their cruelty had awakened forces they did not understand. People remembered the laughter, the mocking songs, the cruel words thrown at two orphan girls who had done nothing wrong. One by one, villagers began walking toward the small house at the edge of the village where Chica and Kachi lived. They stood quietly outside the twins' house before knocking gently on the door. When the twins stepped outside, the villagers lowered their heads. "We were wrong," an old woman said. "We hurt you." Another villager spoke softly. "We should have protected you instead." Finally, the chief himself came. He stood before the twins, his once proud posture now humbled. "We have treated you badly for many years," he admitted. "The village is ashamed." He bowed his head deeply. "Forgive us." But forgiveness does not always erase pain. Chica and Kachi listened quietly. Their faces remained calm, but their eyes carried memories of many lonely years. Years of mockery, years of isolation, years of feeling like strangers in the place they were born. When they finally spoke, their voices were gentle but firm. "We cannot stay here." The villagers looked up in shock. Chica continued, "This village was our home, but it never treated us like family." Kachi nodded slowly. "The apologies are appreciated," she said softly, "but the past cannot be undone." And they meant it. Some wounds heal. Others simply teach you when it is time to leave. So, early morning, just before the sun began to rise, Chica and Kachi woke up once again with the same quiet understanding between them. It was time to leave. Their small house was silent as they gathered the few belongings they owned. They had never possessed much in the first place, just a few pieces of clothing, some cooking utensils, and a small wooden box that had once belonged to their mother. The villagers gathered. The twins adjusted the baskets on their shoulders and began walking. The villagers parted silently, creating a path for them to pass through. The path out of Umudada stretched ahead of them. Each step carried them farther away from the village that had once been their home. But neither of them turned back. Not once. In front of them lay a road they had never traveled before. But they knew one thing for certain. They were finally leaving behind a place that had measured their worth by the length of their hair. And ahead of them waited a new life, one where, perhaps, beauty would be seen for what it truly was.